How does one compete in a skydiving tournament?
Once you get into skydiving, this whole world opens up. There's so many different kinds of disciplines and things you can do for competition, and it also changes really fast. It's evolving. As skydivers, if you can imagine, we get bored easily. So we're we're constantly like, "Oh, let's do this now." So it does change quickly. Some of the sport side of it is about going as fast as you can, whether that's in free fall or once your parachute's opened. And sometimes it's building formations with groups of people, and then another formation, another formation, another formation. So you're getting points from
Based
exiting.
on your formation?
Yeah, the formations you build, and there's this
Okay.
whole complex rule structure to it, and it's evolved over the years. And there's different, you can do that under canopy as well. And there's different orientations. You can be head down, you can be on your belly. So there's so many different ways, but it's about speed. It's about going as fast as you can with your team. And then there's an artistic side of it, which is kind of like figure skating, where you create a beautiful routine, and then you perform for the judges.
I'm
and
thinking
they,
ballet in my
Yeah,
head.
it's like
kind of
I'm
like,
thinking
ballet.
synchronized swimming.
yeah.
like synchronized
Yeah.
swimming, and then some people have kind of like a skateboard style, and then some people have more like ballet, and yeah, so you can bring creativity to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's in free fall as well as under canopy, which kind of reminds me of like a soul session at a surf comp, where you just kind of, instead of about going fast or being accurate when you land, it's just about doing something beautiful that's kind of cool and creative.
Is that a part of it? How, like, if I put a target on the ground, how close can your whole team land on it? Is that a way they judge you?
Yeah, that's part of
Interesting.
various different canopy competitions.
Yeah. Which modality do you find yourself doing the most?
Basically, my kind of mark in the sport has been, I've done a lot of different things. I started off as a freestylist, so it was a solo competition with one cameraman. So it was me and somebody filming me. And we did really well in the beginning. This was in my early 20s. We won the national championships multiple times, did a few world level competitions.
You and your cameraman.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. Is that, do the judges review your video footage?
Yeah, most of the judging happens after the video gets dubbed. There are some that happen, like if it's about landing your parachute, the judges are right there watching it.
Okay.
But anything that happens in free fall is judged after from a camera flyer.
Interesting.
And their performance is as crucial as the performance.
Your cameraman.
Mm-hmm.
That
Wow.
makes sense, because you need a good production technician in order to showcase what you're doing.
Yeah, because we're flying around each other, and it's evolved. It's evolved a lot. So it's so incredible, like what the kids are doing today is like, it's mind blowing. I adore it. So I just love watching it. A few years ago, indoor skydiving centers started popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, iFly, is that the place in
Yeah,
Scottsdale?
yeah.
iFly.
And they're all over the world, all through China and Russia, all through Europe, all through just everywhere, and South America. So people are using them now. It's completely changed the sport, and kids start going in them when they're kids, 2 years old, 3 years old. So they're really good by the time they're 18.
How does
Yeah.
It's incredible.
How does it compare if I were to go to iFly and basically create a skydiving experience versus literally jumping out of a plane in real time? How does that compare to itself?
A few of the elements, a few of your like sensories are similar. You can feel the wind. It feels very similar. But it's loud too. Free fall's loud, but it's visually much different, right? So you're not seeing, and obviously the ground's not there, so you don't have the parachute, but you can use it to train flying. And it's very, very similar, and it's a very amazing tool. If you skydive and you're practicing a artistic routine, you have 60 seconds from exiting the airplane to opening your parachute. And then you wait another 20 minutes. You have to pack your parachute. You have to go back up to altitude. That's generally 40 minutes to do another 60 seconds. So with wind tunnels, you're doing 15 minutes in a row, and you're just training, and you can come out and watch your video and go right back in. And it's really made a
lot
big
of
difference.
downtime between going up and going down.
In skydiving. So
Yeah.
people now are training, getting so much more air time. It's a night and day difference how people used to fly and how they fly now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But it's really fun. If anyone is like thinking about trying it, it's a great way to get that feeling of free fall. If you're not sure if you want to skydive, this is a much more controlled environment and it's super fun.
How physically demanding is skydiving on your body?
It's not like gravity definitely does most of the work, right? So it as far as you don't have to be strong. You have to be fit, and you have to, the more fit you are, the better it is to prevent injury or to recover from small injuries. The opening of your parachute, even good openings, which like 1,000 openings are good, and then maybe you have a bad one where not fatal, of course, but just a hard one or something like that.
It jerks you when
it jerks
it's not
you
supposed to
hard,
do that. It's supposed to
spins
kind of
you,
be
kinda
gradual.
soft. But
Okay.
even the good ones, they're hard on your body. So the more physically fit you are, the better. But for a long time, skydivers got away with not really caring about. There was kind of like extreme sport athletes, which you would kind of assume they might, but it's really changed. It's changed a lot where being healthy and being physically fit and training your fitness alongside of your skydiving training is really kind of gone hand in hand now. So it really does help. But you can be as strong as a man, stronger muscles maybe than a small girl, but they can fly just as fast as each other and just as strong and get just as many points because it's not about the muscle. It's more about the finesse of flying.
Now, you mentioned speed being one of the indicators of score. Correct me if I'm wrong. How can you fall faster than other people? Is there a technique on how to precisely fall?
Yeah, there is. And there's a new discipline, again, because we kind of got bored and this is relatively new. So, oh, let's try this. This will be good. So there's this new discipline where it's called speed skydiving, and you're going basically head down as fast as you can. And I want to say the world record.
Y'all a bunch of adrenaline junkies.
It's called lawn
really,
darts,
yeah,
right?
it's really and it's like you're going, the world record is almost 400. It's miles per hour. So it's
Wow.
crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. Like you're
Head
going
first.
so fast. Yeah. And I don't know. I've heard that the technique, and again, it's kind of in the beginning. So the evolution of what really works the best is still, I think, yet to be discovered from what I hear. And you are head down, but also slightly at an angle. And
I believe Tom Cruise did this in one of the Mission Impossible movies. I actually think he knows how to do this. What you're describing.
he knows how to dive really well.
Yeah, head first. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I've never skydived, but I have put my head out of the car window.
Yes.
How do you breathe in those situations?
Yeah. So, oh, that's a fun one. So, yeah, that was a real fun one. So, okay, some people say they have trouble breathing. Most of the time it's because they're nervous, right? So they're when you're doing your first skydive, we'll tell you to scream really or laugh, so anything to kind of get you out of that like
I just jumped out of a plane.
Yeah, that frozen.
Yeah.
And or when the wind is in your face, some people find that difficult. When you do your first skydive, all of your senses kind of explode and you're not able to process. It's so unknown. You can't process it. It takes a few skydives. So it could be difficult to breathe. Most people will fly with full faces, so it's kind of like a motorcycle helmet but a lot lighter, and that's much nicer. It blocks the wind from your face, so it's less. And when there's so much wind, if it's cold, you'll have like all sorts of bodily functions. It's not fun. So that
Chris and have you guys skydived?
I have
Either
not.
of you? Neither?
Nope.
Yeah, okay, so you and me.
Yeah.
I did it. I did it
Actually,
once, yeah.
I flew skydivers. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Where?
Peace.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Hit the button.
Get out. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So the mask helps. It's less loud.
Yeah,
Does it make it easier to breathe?
it does. It makes it more relaxing because you just don't have that fast wind in your face. So imagine sticking your head out of a car window, but now with a motorcycle helmet on, just being on a motorcycle.
Mhm.
It's much better. It blocks the wind and
So
much
one
more
of,
pleasant.
one of the top questions we got asked to ask in preparations for this episode: how likely is it or unlikely that the parachute will open?
So they're gonna open. They're gonna open. It's very rare that it doesn't open at all. There are malfunctions called total malfunctions, and there's a few different variations. So that means your your backpack, it's the container, doesn't open at all. We have a second parachute, so you always jump with two, your main parachute and your reserve. I've never heard of both the main and the reserve not opening. If that's happened, you should do a murder investigation because it sounds weird.
Got it. Yeah.
So but what can happen and what's more common is the main parachute, it opens, but there's a big hole ripped in it. So you have to get rid of it and then use your reserve.
You can cut it loose. Do you have a cord or something you pull and it just goes?
Yeah. You
Okay.
have a cutaway handle and then a reserve handle. So you cut away your main and you pull your reserve.
Got it. I think the most catastrophic memes and videos I've seen are when parachutes get tangled with one another. People are diving in tandem and they get caught, they get twisted, and then they start to cascade toward the earth and no one can pull their reserve because they're twisted. I mean, is that, in your opinion, what's the worst?
Nightmare.
That's a nightmare.
Yeah. Scenario. Yeah, there's for a while they have good statistics. The United States Parachute Association keeps data on everything, and they'll put out every year what the most common situation that year, and that's often it, where two people entangle either on opening, maybe they're flying away from each other but they don't see that they're actually close, so they get entangled on opening, or they are already under good parachutes and they don't see each other and they collide, kind of like you would hit a car. Two cars would hit each other. Yeah, and those aren't good situations. Those are
they
terrible.
Common or very rare?
They're very rare. They're uncommon and they're preventable. Yeah, but we're humans and humans make mistakes, so it's just it can happen, and you just have to be as careful as possible and make the best choices as possible, and slow down when you need to.
Yeah. It seems so incredibly dangerous to the average person, but at least from the information we were given when I did it in New Zealand, they were like, listen, you should just know, I mean, you're at more risk in the car you drove to get here to come do this than you are jumping out of this plane with the instructor. Like, you're very, very, very unlikely to actually get injured or hurt or especially die doing this activity. So a lot of it is in your mind. Would you agree, the fear of doing this for the average person?
I think that most people imagine it more dangerous than it is, but then you will get people that start skydiving and they don't realize that it is dangerous, and that is really dangerous to me, because tandem skydives are a great way. There's never been a tandem accident at Skydive Arizona. That's where I live. It's in Eloy, Arizona, and my husband does tandems there. I mean, I would strap my grandma to him in a heartbeat, and I feel very comfortable about that.
Yeah.
But skydiving does have dangers to it, and it's important not to ignore them when you're pursuing it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Would you see yourself, or if you're not already, do you do coaching? Do you do any tandem instruction or competitive instruction from a coaching role?
I do. I coach mostly military. I did coach civilian for a long time, but now I do mostly military. They're the most amazing students. I imagine you guys train military here, and it's just like the greatest students, right? You just input information and they execute. It's wonderful. And I don't do tandems. I have my tandem rating and I keep it current, but that's mostly for my resume. Yeah, I don't actually take people on tandems. But yeah, I've coached people most of my career.
So when you do coach these military individuals, they are jumping out with their own parachute, not strapped to you or anyone else.
Correct.
Gotcha. Do they have to jump with a tandem instructor before they jump out of the plane alone? Or is that something someone lied to me about?
Not in the military.
Not in the
Some
military.
of them might, but civilian, you don't have to. There are ways around it, but it's the best way. It's the best way to start. And it might be uncomfortable for some people. Like, I don't want to be strapped to someone. Like, it's uncomfortable. But most people forget to pull their parachutes the first time. It's just a normal part of it. Because you're
the first and the last time I forgot to pull my parachute.
That's a good selling point. I think I'd pull it right when I got out.
I know that would be me too.
Some people do that too. Well, okay. So if you skip doing a tandem, the training program, you have people with you. So on either side, and the first few jumps they're holding on to you. Like, we're holding on to you. We have control over your deployment system. So we're focused on is making sure you're safe. And if you forget, we're on it, and we give you signals. Okay, remember, pull. Point your finger.
Can
at
you
me, pull.
speak to this person you're strapped to midair?
Generally, no. There is equipment where you can, but pretty much it's all happening with hand signals and preparation. Everything is we train. It's called dirt diving. We practice on the ground. Everything is planned and rehearsed, and we talk about it and then execute.
So, Amy, I'm going to pull this clip up right here of a team skydive that seems like choreographed. Do you guys have mics in your helmets to talk to each other? Or is this all just been preparation on the ground?
It's all preparation on the ground. There are some.
I'm struggling to see what exactly is how. Are you
That's the
flying
best.
down or
Yeah.
up?
Yeah, they're flying down. Yeah.
So what? How do you do that? Do you guys have fireworks strapped to your feet? Like, how do you do this?
We do.
Literal. Oh wow, I was totally bullshitting that question. Those are literal fireworks,
Yeah.
like on your feet.
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, it's
Really
insane.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. No, this is very impressive.
We recently did a world record, so there's 40 people. You might see some content there. It's like that, but that has 12 people. So it's with everyone had pyro. And those are really fun because
That's what we call the things on your feet.
Yeah,
Pyro,
pyro.
okay.
It's their pyro sticks. They kind of look like dynamite, but obviously they're not dynamite. And we have remotes that basically charge them. So when you want to light it, you push the button on the remote, it charges them. And yeah, it's super fun.
So you don't have to. Yeah, I was gonna say lighting a match midair might be difficult.
Yeah, that doesn't work. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
How do you judge your altitude when you're flying?
You have a few different systems. You have a visual altimeter on your wrist. You have an audible altimeter in your helmet, so it's beeping. New students, they start with just the visual. So you start with visual, so you really are kind of respecting that and looking at your altitude and starting to learn where you are in free fall.
Not visual, like looking at the ground. You're talking looking at your watch.
Yeah, it's
type of
actually
thing.
a dial on your wrist.
Okay, got it.
And then as you get more experienced, you can put an audible altimeter, so it's beeping when you get to certain altitudes.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. And so you jump, it beeps. Does it tell you, when exactly to pull?
Yeah, it depends on what you're doing in what the plan of the skydive is. So I'll put my first beep. They'll have like 3 or 4 beeps. So I usually have the one with 4. I put my first beep at where I want to break away. So where you're with the group of people and then everyone tracks away. It's called break off. So you get into clear airspace so you can open your parachute safely without people around you. So I'll put the first one at break off. And then I'll put the next one at where I'm going to deploy my parachute.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll put the next one at, if I have a malfunction, it alerts me to, hey, you're getting, because you will try, if you have a small malfunction, maybe one brake fires, so you're spinning, you have to just pull the other one and maybe get out of some line twists or something. And you can manage that. You don't have to get rid of your main parachute. But if that next audible beep starts going off and I'm like, hey, I haven't fixed it yet, I'm getting lower to the ground, then I'll cut away.
Cut away and pull the reserve.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most what would you say is the scariest or most difficult situation you've ever been in your time doing this sport?
So I think I did have an accident when I was 24 or 5 or something. I was just starting to get good and people were starting to hire me. It was one of the first jobs I got hired to go, and it's called load organizing. You go to a skydiving event and people look to you to organize groups of people to go on a skydive. So I was there and I was like young, so full of energy, and I was going back to back. I was jumping, landing, grabbing my parachute on the next plane. And I was on like the 15th jump of the day. And I had made this plan that was above my skill set. I couldn't do the plan, but I thought I could because I had seen it in a video once. So I was like, all right, I could do this. And then I crashed into another skydiver really, really bad. I was so lucky I didn't hurt them. And I broke my ankle in free fall.
You crashed with no chutes deployed. Like you guys smashed with no chutes. Okay.
He was on his belly, so he was going about 120 miles per hour. And I was flying vertical, so my fall rate was more like 160. So I go past, there was like a group of people with a big opening in the middle. It's called a round. It's like a circle of love. So we have this circle of love, and I was going to go through it, but I miss, and I land on this guy's back. Which
At
was
roughly 20 miles an hour, if you factor the two.
Yeah, it was, probably a 40-mile-an-hour difference. I crash into this guy. We're at like 9,000 feet. I hear like, pop, 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 like my bones break, right? I'm just like, fuck. And I track away, I go away, and I'm just like, all right, I open my parachute. I'm okay. And then I'm moving my foot. Okay, I'm moving my foot. It must not be broke because I just had heard that was the thing. It's not.
It's not. Yeah, it's not.
And luckily there was a good strong headwind when I was landing. So you fly into the wind on landing. And if you have a good strong headwind, you don't go that fast. So I was able to hop on one leg on my landing. And my leg was broke. The other guy I saw, he came up to me. He was an older man, and he was like, "Oh, honey, you hit the right person." He's like, "I'm fine." And I was like, "Oh my God."
No broken bone on him, nothing at all. Just
yeah.
I
was so lucky. I so easily could have killed this guy. It was a horrible
really
moment. Yeah. So
meaning if you guys had collided, like,
if I like hit his
head to head
Yeah.
or something,
Yeah.
If I landed on his head,
knocked him unconscious, he can't pull the chute, anything like that.
It happens.
Did things change after that incident? You're just like, you know what, I need to have a better pre-flight, meditation before I go jump. Or do you meditate before your jumps? Or
sometimes it depends really on what my state of mind is. But after that point, I slowed down. I slowed down a lot.
Yeah.
I realized that I was going too fast. I was getting overconfident as well as complacent. So it really kind of opened up my awareness to the dangers. And I felt like a really good lesson. I was really lucky that I was able to learn that lesson. It's a dangerous time for skydivers when they start getting really familiar with skydiving and very current and good. They kind of forget that they're skydiving. So so after that point, I slowed down a lot.
Okay. There's the automatic chute deployment system. I've always wondered, what altitude does it deploy if someone was going to become unconscious?
Yep. So it depends if they're a student, a tandem, or an experienced skydiver. For an experienced skydiver, it's 700 feet. Yeah, so it's seconds before you're going to impact.
I was going to say 700 feet?
Yeah.
How much time do you need for your chute to deploy before you hit the ground and die?
Yeah, the reserve parachute opens really fast. It's designed to open fast. It's packed to open fast, so that opens quickly. It's just enough time.
Just enough time for it to catch you before you hit the ground.
It's just enough time.
Does it jolt more when it opens? Yeah.
Yes. If you're head down or anything but on your belly, even when you're on your belly, it's a much harder opening. And that's by design. It's because you want it to open fast.
Yeah, it's life or death.
Yeah.
It's like, your back is going to be jacked, but you're going to be alive. You'll
Yeah.
be okay. You opened something that I'm curious about. How important would you say, the mental health of the divers is before you go and do this? This is such an extreme sport, and you're dealing with a group of people who have a very high threshold for adrenaline. How important is it for somebody to be in the right headspace before they just go and jump out of a plane?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question I feel like we could talk so much about it because skydivers, I don't know why we do it, right? This like dopamine deficient thing that draws us all together. And I was thinking about this today. I feel like skydivers generally deal with a mild depression. I feel like we all do. And it's part of the reason why we seek this dopamine, right? This like addiction that we all have of just like, I know people think, oh, they're crazy. And we're like, we're not crazy. We just don't have as much dopamine as everybody else. So there's kind of like that draw. But yes, taking care of your mental health is extremely important, just like any other aspect of life. But the stakes are just a little bit higher when you're skydiving. So it's maybe more important.
Very common in a lot of extreme sports. You find that free solo rock climbers. The one guy who free soloed the
Yeah,
Yosemite. What?
yeah.
Anybody
What
know
is
his name?
Gosh.
Alex.
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 Honnold.
Honnold.
Yeah.
They scanned his prefrontal cortex, which I believe is the area of the brain that shows this, and they said he doesn't actually feel fear. Like his feeling, his metric for fear is not what another person would consider to be fear. He doesn't get scared the way a normal person would get scared. And that can result in a lot of different things. He can, he has a difficult time relating what might or might not be dangerous, has a much more difficult time achieving that sense of like accomplishment, because if you don't have fear, you must go for these goals that are so much more difficult and sometimes dangerous in order to get that same rush. That rush no longer comes. Do you find any of this with either your competitors or with teammates or anything, or even yourself in this sport?
I have come across people where I would assume they don't feel fear, and it is amazing. I'm like, what is going on there? You kind of that I feel fear for sure, and most of the people I interact with do feel fear. I think we just like it. Like, I like being afraid and I like being stressed, and it's about the release, I would assume, right? It's about getting through it and accomplishing it. So yeah.
Have you ever done any stadium jumps or anything like
That's
that?
what I was just thinking of. I'm like when I'm jumping into a stadium, that's exactly. I was like, you're nervous, and I get nervous for not like my parachute's not going to open and I'm going to die. That's not what I get nervous about. But if I go a little bit too long and I hit the side of the wall on the stadium, maybe I like crash into something, or I don't stand up my landing or something embarrassing like that, right? So yeah, they're scary because you have to be really precise. I'm actually doing a stadium jump next week.
That's amazing.
I'm going to train for it this week because it's really
here in Glendale.
No, it's in Salt Lake.
Okay.
And it's into the football stadium of the university, and it's got guide wires. So when you go to a football stadium, they put the wires up to have the net so the football doesn't go into the crowd.
Yeah.
So those make stadiums tricky because you can't see them really well. So you have to remember where they are. And then it cuts it off. It cuts off your line. So you basically have this really small area that you're dealing with. And yesterday I was in Salt Lake talking to people about it, and they said, yeah, it's got the wires on both sides. And I thought, oh shit, I didn't know that. So
I'm stressed about this.
I know.
But I'm going to train for it this week. I'm basically going to do a bunch of jumps where I do a short little pattern and I enter the pattern really low, just so I'm real familiar with it. I'll do a bunch of training jumps, so I'm feeling good about it.
Are the winds doing anything weird, like around in a stadium?
Yeah, really weird. And you have someone on the ground that's communicating with the jumpers before they jump. It's called ground crew. And if the winds are too weird or not good in any way, they'll tell you not to jump. And we have a good idea about that before we jump. Stadiums, if you're in an open field or somewhere where there's not a lot of obstacles to make the wind be weird, then you can jump in a lot of wind and a lot of different. But when it comes to a stadium, you get shut down easier with weird winds.
Okay.
Did you happen to see Deadpool 2?
No,
Second
someone
Deadpool.
just told me to see that, to watch it. That's funny.
It's right up your alley. We
Yes.
we have a family friend who does military halo jump training as well, and we went with him to see this film. And in the film, they have a hilarious parachute jump scene where they all jump out, and they do it when there's a wind advisory in effect. They do it anyway because Deadpool's like, what, you think we're not going to jump out because of a light breeze? And it's this people who do this. I remember distinctly because he thought it was the funniest thing in the entire world. He wouldn't stop laughing, and to a normal civilian, we're like, yeah, it's funny. I mean, it's kind of funny, but he's like, no, you don't get it. That's hilarious. Like if you do parachuting and you see the scene, they jump out of this plane during the wind advisory and they all just wreck. But it's good to know that's actually true to life. You don't jump if there is bad wind or something of that nature.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really important element.
Yeah.
For us.
Is high altitude jumping like its own category? Is that a thing?
It is. And when you're talking about military, they'll say high altitude at different altitudes, but they'll talk about 13,000 feet as high, but that's normally where civilians jump. So the lingo is different for civilian and military. On the civilian side, if we're doing a world record where maybe there's 100 people coming together, we'll go higher. We'll go up to 19,000 feet, and you have to have oxygen systems in the plane, so you're breathing
How
oxygen.
high is the barrier where you must have oxygen?
It is 15,500 above sea level. I believe it's like give or take 500
Wow.
feet.
Yeah, when I jumped, they jumped from 15,000. So he literally took us right up to the 500. Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's-
if you're in somewhere like Salt Lake or Colorado, you're already pretty high.
Mhm.
So you should have oxygen in the plane in those situations. If you're going above that, you can get hypoxic and it like sneaks up on you. It's really bad when that happens because you don't know that it's happening often.
I assume you would pass out?
It treats everybody different. So I've been very fortunate to go through high altitude training, and you have to get it recurrent every 5 years because it changes as you age, but it's different for every person, and it's different depending on the physiology of your body at that time. And it changes over time. So some people get kind of drunk feeling, some people start the colors start dimming. Some people get nauseous. I get nauseous. Like I'll start getting tired and feeling funny, and then I just am going to throw up and pass out.
Have you had this happen to you? Have you gone hypoxic in the past?
I have in the plane a couple times, but I'm lucky because I do the training, so they bring you to these thresholds of hypoxia, so you get to learn what's going to happen to you.
Can you still jump if you're hypoxic?
No, and the only times it's happened to me, you shouldn't. It does happen, but that's because people don't know. They don't know what's happening.
I was
and
gonna say,
they-
I wouldn't jump.
Yeah, you shouldn't, and that's what the training's all about. So if you can recognize when there's a problem and you can say, "Hey, we gotta stop this." It's only happened to me on flights where I'm going from. One time I was going from Arizona to Montana for a skydiving event in the skydiving plane.
Cool.
And I was like partied the night before. I was hungover. I was just in this plane like an idiot. And we were flying at 12,000 feet. I'd fallen asleep and I woke up and I was so hypoxic. And I am sure if I hadn't drank the night before, I would have been fine. So it just,
So alcohol can affect your sensitivity to high elevation.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I remember
Interesting.
in flight school, the altitude chamber, like guys would come out of the altitude chamber and they drink like a beer and they'd be wasted.
Yeah,
like, off of a
yeah.
beer.
What?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How? Why?
Less oxygen in the bloodstream and
Yeah.
all that.
Is that it?
Yeah,
It's just
so
down to that?
You get drunk quicker.
Fascinating.
Yeah, dehydration.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
yeah.
Amy,
Makes
do you have
sense.
any plans for base jumping, wingsuiting? Is there any places you haven't skydived yet that you really want to go and do?
So I don't base jump.
Okay.
I have, but it's not something I do regularly. It's kind of such a different element. I actually just saw a movie last night. It's called Fly. It was in the IMAX for 2 nights only. It's this beautiful love story about 3 different couples in base jumping. It'll be on, I think it's going to be on Hulu and Disney. So
Sweet.
if you guys come across it, check it out. It was so good. That's why I was in Utah yesterday. Yeah, it was really just the most beautiful. It was a love story. Anyway, it was amazing. So my next big thing, oddly, is that's really scaring me. It's gonna sound lame. But I'm running for the United States Parachute Association board,
Oh, nice.
Very
which is
cool.
way out of my comfort zone. Like I am comfortable doing the like fucked up shit. Like I'm comfortable like out there skydiving. That's my jam. But to be part of a board most people don't realize what the United States Parachute Association does as skydivers. We don't always understand, but it really helps keep skydiving safe and affordable and legal in the United States. So it's a really, really important governing body for what we do. And I'm ready for that challenge in my life, but it really scares me.
Heck
Yeah.
yeah.
Which
That's awesome.
which part of it? Is it the public forum, the speaking, the coming up with legislation, I would assume, something like that?
Yeah, what really scares me, to be honest, is when you do jobs like that, it's a volunteer job, so you're just doing it. For me, I want to do it because I want to get better at this type of leadership,
Yeah.
and I have 30 years of experience and accomplishments in the sport that I could bring to the table. So I know that, I could be useful in that role. But I'm just afraid of people being nasty to you. I'm afraid of the haters. I don't deal well with that. And it will.
And anytime you're in a governing body of any shape or size, people will hate you.
Yeah.
We know.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's terrifying because I'll shut down and then I can't think and then I can't really make good decisions and I question myself. So I am oddly excited to work on that, to have an opportunity to like get better at that type of leadership and just get better at ignoring the haters, the people that are like picking on the people that are actually in the arena and trying to make a difference. So
Totally.
Heck yeah.
I'm interested to hear about your partnership with Red Bull. How did that come about?
So Red Bull, I was so lucky when I was 21 years old. I got hired to be the office person at a place called Skydive Lake Tahoe. And that summer when I lived up there, that's when the team was forming and the Red Bull was just starting to get popular in the US and they sponsored a group of athletes there. And the team grew from that point on. And I knew those guys from a very young age in skydiving and I was 20, 21. So I was really young and they got to see me grow in the sport. And when I was 34, I called them and I said, what, you guys want to have a girl on? Like, you need a woman on your team. Come on.
Yeah.
What are you doing? It's 2013. You need a woman. And they said, yeah, we do. So I kind of knocked on that door and they started hiring me part-time for a couple years. And then they offered me a contract.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Awesome. Heck
That's
yeah.
awesome. And it took a couple of years, which is a lesson in and of itself.
Yeah,
So you
because
had- yeah.
once you're on there, really the person who is the main, John DeVore, he's the team captain, he does not rush into decisions like that because we're trusting each other with our lives and what we do, we have to, the biggest thing is you have to be able to say no. You have to say no when you can't. Because if we screw up, not only does it suck, maybe you get hurt, but it's really bad for the program and it's really bad for skydiving because it's all high profile stuff.
Yeah.
And it would be really bad for Red Bull.
Yeah.
In that 2-year pro, he was definitely like watching you.
Yeah.
Saying, all right, what type of person is she? How is she? Probably not just in performance, but how is she on social media? How does she carry herself?
Yeah.
Is she acting a certain way or talking about a certain way? And that's awesome. I can
Yeah.
see why. I mean, you're a very relatable person.
Oh,
You
thank
know a
you.
lot about the sport, and it's you're right. It's awesome to have diversity on any team of any sort. So that's great.
Yeah.
How many women are involved in competitive skydiving? I mean, is it very common now, or is it rare?
It is rare. It's it was 13%. So when the statistics are interestingly for first time skydivers, there's actually more women that go skydiving than men. It's like 54% women
Interesting.
and 46% men, right? And then as you get your license and get your higher licenses and then get more and more competitive and advanced in the sport, that percentage dramatically starts swinging the other direction. So at the level I'm at, it for sport jumpers that have their D license, which is the highest civilian license, was 13%. It just went up to 14% women. And then the more advanced you get, world level competitions, there's just less and less women, but it's changing. It's changing a lot, which is great. Yeah.
More women are joining.
Mhm.
You're getting a higher percentage of women.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is so exciting, and this has been such a rewarding episode. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
in. What's up, guys? Welcome to this episode of Becoming the 1% podcast. Amy Chmelecki is in the building. You guys are going to love this. So we're going to talk about skydiving. I don't know if you guys have ever researched this or looked into this. Competitive skydiving is a sport. There are regulations to it. There are different modalities to it. There is so much within this world that I had no knowledge of about an hour and 25 minutes ago. So enjoy.